What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today we're tackling the stock steel OEM bumper on the 2020 JL. It is the factory bumper with all the modular accessories, and we got a little bit of modifications to make ourselves. So we're gonna pull off the outsides of it. Whoever had it before I had it put a stinger on the front. I don't mind it, but I don't love it. So we're gonna pull that off and see how it looks. Anyways, we bought the Warn Winch mounting plate so that we can get a Xeon 10S mounted up. And then we hit up HK Offroad, and Bash sent us out a set of D-ring mounts. So we're gonna put those into place while retaining our factory hooks as well. So we're gonna do all of these modifications of the front end, see how it looks after we're done, and we're working on getting everything set up so that we can actually flat tow it behind our RV. So I'll fill you in a little bit more on that as well. Stay tuned, let's see what we can do today. Alright, so first things first, show you what we got from Bash at HK Offroad. We've got these all taped up. We're going to give them a little spray down here in my makeshift floor space paint booth. So these caps are going to go on the outside, and I'll show you a little bit more about kind of the finished product, or tell you what, we'll throw a little image up in here so you can kind of see what these look like when we're done with them. We got to give these a little coat of paint first on the front and back. These things are beef. These are our big D-ring mounts. These are going to work for our tow bar behind our RV. Pretty pumped to see how these come out. So I've kind of just taped the hardware off, and we're going to get a coat of paint. We're going to start with the underside on both to make sure that we like the way that it's painting up. While this stuff dries, we're going to start pulling off the bumper and getting the winch plate out. We got this deal here. We got this set up from Warn Industries. Haven't even dug into it yet, but it is the winch plate mount for our bumper. There's a lot of parts and pieces in here, so we'll take things one step at a time. We're going to get the bumper off first and see what we need to do next, but let's get started by tearing down the bumper. Alright, so one of the things I was pumped on when I found this rig, beyond the fact that it's got some decent upgrades to it without being overdone, is that it's got the steel bumper group. What's cool about this bumper is that I think Jeep did a really good job creating something that is usable, that's modular, that you can change up, and that gives you different looks too. So maybe if you want that full width bumper, you want something that sticks all the way out there, that kind of gets in front of your front tire, you know, it's got that. Now what we can do here is simply unbolt these and take this whole outside off, which is what we're going to do. Now the other portion of this is that we are going to put some D-rings on it so that we can tow it. And so that package from HK Offroad, the guys down there have designed a really nice setup to get a set of D-ring mounts right here on the front, shackle mounts. And so this cover is going to come off. I believe what we're going to find under here is kind of a, I don't know what you want to call it, like a puck. Yeah, there's like a puck basically underneath this for impact, in case you were to get in a front end collision. The other thing is if you pick it up from HK Offroad, They have an option to either get shorter bolts, so you just bolt it right on and you will lose these factory hooks if you don't want them, or you can get longer bolts and we will retain these. Now, I did ask if I had to drill these out because I had seen another video with possibly a prior version of these mounts, and they said they were going to have to drill out these factory hooks if they wanted to retain them. The new version, or at least from my understanding, I don't have to drill those out. They should bolt right through there. And then the faceplate is going to go right over the end cap here. So we're going to pull this bumper off. I'm going to strip a few of the things off and make it a little bit lighter to pull the entire thing off. Also, I don't mind this stinger, bull bar, whatever you want to call it. I don't mind it. I don't love it. I actually like just a really clean look without maybe the stinger on it. I've got it. Again, this is something that's modular. So, you know, 3 bolts on each side, easy to take on and off if it's something we want to throw back on at some point and get the looks of after we've stripped this down a little bit. Maybe it looks different without the full width bumper and with a winch in there, so we can always throw it back on if we want, but we're going to take that off. I'm going to take the sides off, and then we're going to get situated to get that winch plate from Warren mounted on here. And then the final step, I think, when we bolt it back together, we'll get those D-ring mounts on here too. So let's get going on this thing and make some stuff happen. So quick note, just on your front sides, on the 2 side pieces, these front screws here, a little bit longer than the top screws, back screws, and side screws. So just keep that in mind, put them aside. We're gonna use ours to get the D-rings bolted on, so just something we should mention. So I hit my first snag, and that is that my Warren Xeon 10S winch is an older winch. Although it's still brand new and in the box, I bought it quite some time ago, you know, for use on something else and haven't used it. So it's been sitting in the box since probably about 2015, and it turns out back in about 2015, Warren changed the throw on the front lever, and actually I'll show you because I got 2 of these, and I actually was working with a friend over at Warren, and so they kind of helped me out with them, which is why I have one that's still in the box. But this lever, like on the WJ, it is an older style Xeon 10S, which means that lever throws 180 degrees all the way back over to the other side. Didn't know this till I pulled it out of the box, because a lot of the winches I've seen mounted to this kit at this point have been Xeons or even the VR. So I didn't question it. It seemed like it worked with the Xeon, but it said platinum Xeon winch and short throw 90-degree Xeon winch. And then in the do not work with or does not work with column, where's any of that stuff? I'll show you. So on this side, it says it works with the short 90-degree lever Xeon winch and the Xeon Platinum winch. And right over here, it says it does not work with the long lever Xeon winch. So I called Warren just to make sure that I was reading that correctly and to see if mine was actually the long lever one, which I already assumed it was because that's my luck. I'm on a very short timeline here. So Montana Jack's in Great Falls, Montana, which is a 6.5 hour drive from here. And I know that because I looked it up and I contemplated driving 6.5 hours over and 6.5 hours back because I'm at a complete standstill until I get that part. I have to take off the end cap of the winch and put in a new part for the clutch or near the clutch. I have to put the lever in there, and so I can't pull that off once it's mounted. And I can't mount anything until I have the winch on, which means there's just nothing else to do right now until I get that part. So today's Thursday. They're gonna send that tomorrow because it's too late today for it to go out. They're gonna send it out tomorrow. It'll be here first thing Saturday. So I'm gonna shift gears entirely. I have some wiring and some towable components that I need to get set up on the JL anyways, so that we can pull it behind the RV. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to focus on that stuff, and I'll check back in with you when I am going again on the front bumper.
This Jeep's too long.
The Jeep's too long?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Jeep's too muddy.
It's too muddy?
Yeah.
Not yet, but we're going to get it probably a little muddy. That'd be fun, huh? So making some progress. We're still waiting one more day. We overnighted this 90-degree lever that we need for the Xeon winch because I have an older one, but got the bumper off, got the base tray on, it's zip tied there. Warren actually gives you these big durable guys to keep that on because the winch is actually going to get mounted next. So this is really as far as we can go until I have that lever. Once I have the lever, we'll remove the clutch side of the winch. I can show you that real quick. You gotta forgive the workbench. It's got all sorts of different projects going on it right now, but this is what the Warren looks like on the lever side. So it's actually this lever that we've got to take off, and we've got to put on a different one. So we're gonna get this out. There's just a screw inside here that comes out. It's a brand new winch, so it's pretty clean. Even the gasket's good to go on it. That's it. We've got to get that back on with a 90-degree lever so that it clears the bumper. So kind of stand still for the night, and get back at it tomorrow when we get those parts. All right, so I've finally got this piece in. I shouldn't say finally because it hasn't really taken that long. We overnighted it, but I ordered it late on a Thursday. It left on Friday. Today is Saturday. We've got our parts in. So this is the lever that's going to go on this and replace this 180-degree one. Again, I've had this new in the box for far too long. They told me it had to be pre-2015, which makes sense because I'm pretty sure I got it in like 2013, which means it's a 10-year-old winch, but it's still, you know, a Xeon 10S. The only difference and the only update that they've made since then is that this is no longer a 180-degree lever. It's a 90-degree lever. The upside to that is it's really easy to swap out and fix this. So we'll do that here in a couple of minutes. I'm gonna get back over to the bumper and show you a couple of things that we got going on with that. All right, so the one thing that I noticed on the bumper last night, I was kind of taking everything apart. Let's see. Yeah, there were got all sorts of shadows today. These are the factory hooks. We're gonna have to get these studs out of here, which I'm either gonna use the press for, or we'll give them a couple taps, see if they pop out, because our new D-rings from HK Offroad are actually gonna go right through these. The bolts that are in those D-rings are gonna go through these. But if you take a look down here, these little clips that are on the outside of these, they are not easy to get off. They're a pain in the neck. They sit down on here really well. See, it's kind of hard to see. There we go. But these essentially crush onto the side. And unless you have a very small screwdriver, they're really hard to get off. So what I found actually is I had I've got a regular set of like needle nose pliers. Picked up a little toolkit that you might pick up for, I don't know, an extra little one sitting around the house or something like that. And my son was out playing with these little guys the other day, and actually these little guys work perfect. So between prying stuff up with a screwdriver, trying to get the clips off, and then using these little guys just to break it once you finally get underneath it, I just break the clips off. You're not going to pull them off to reuse them. You don't need to reuse them. I mean, you shouldn't have to reuse them at some point, and if you do, they're not that expensive. Just go buy yourself a set. It saves you the frustration of trying to pull these things off nicely. So pry them off there, get this thing apart. We're going to pull this other one off the other side, and then the other thing that we're going to have to do, let's see, it's hard for me to do this with one hand, but after looking, this puck here, yeah, I'm in all sorts of weird shadows today, but to take my word, I thought this was a rubber puck. It is not. It's an aluminum like crush puck. It's also got welds all the way around it. We're gonna grind those off and get these things off of there because they've got to come off before we put everything else on. So a little more work to do, but just start cruising and get this thing done. It's time for final assembly today, and this thing's got to get done. So, quick look at what makes these different. Number one, the 90-degree handle is a little bit shorter, but really what it is the notch. So this is the 180 notch, and as you can see, it passes all the way through. This is the 90-degree notch, and so it only goes, you guessed it, 90 degrees through. So, and then a little bit difference in the size. we're doing this, I wanted to take just a minute because this is driving me crazy. It's not the easiest thing. Pressed out a lot of studs from different things in my time. Wheel studs, you know, whatever it is. A lot of times, I mean, they're symmetrical, or at least they're symmetrical enough that you can do it. These are not. Let me grab this one that I've already finished before I press the last stud out of this one. So these front hooks, you have to take the studs out to run the bolts from these D-ring mounts through these. These things are in there. So I lubricated them a little bit with WD, hit them on both sides. But the problem is they are offset. So it's like a fork, and it drops down on one side, which HK Offroad sends you some washers to kind of make up for the gap that you're going to have with this. But I mean, these obviously they're not painted with the studs on there because, you know, the studs aren't painted. But I think the tolerance, I mean, obviously there's paint on the inside of these. Let's see, can you see that? These are painted on the inside. So I don't know if the holes are just enough that they are the exact right size for the studs, and then they powder coat these hooks. But usually you still have ridges. These are aggressive and they are pressed in there hard. And because they're a little offset, I really had to find some ways to get each one of them out. So before I press this last one out, I'll just show you, but actually my pry bar is kind of the perfect depth or thickness to offset this thickness. So the pry bar kind of fit right in there perfectly. Can't show you with that because it's already in there. But you just have to play around with this. Hopefully you have a press. I don't know how else you're going to get them out if you don't. I wouldn't typically use a block of wood either, but the way that I've got this set up, the block of wood ended up working really well because it kind of pinches down the other side. And that's the issue that you have with this. The issue that you have is that, you know, not only are they offset from front to back, or I guess top to bottom, but you know, you're pressing out studs, the other side wants to lift up, and you switch it, and then this side wants to lift up. So you really got to find a way to kind of wedge this thing in there. So I have no science behind this. I have no specific tips other than play around with what you have. Find something like, you know, the breaker bar and the block of wood to kind of wedge between the top. I haven't even pushed this one down. And hopefully, there it goes. Now, usually I had the breaker bar at the bottom. Let's see here. Of course, this one's not going to work like the other ones did, but there you go. Last one's out. That was a nightmare. It took me a few minutes, and I kind of had to slow down and look at what I was doing and how I was doing it. And we've got them all out now, but man, the other one took a little bit of a beating. Not a big deal. This one looks fine, but I got this one. I had it propped up on everything, and it wedged down in between the things. So whatever, they're tow hooks is what it is. Maybe give them a little coat of paint, maybe not. I don't really care that much. Mostly need to get them on there. So have patience, but those studs will come out. All right, next steps. All right, so our winch is on and it's bolted down, it's wired up. We're gonna get some of the stuff on the bumper because we're gonna need to thread the winch line through the bumper, then through the plate, and get it connected to the winch before we put the bumper back on. So, two things that I got from Factor 55. We got the 1-inch fairlead, and we got this flat link. So the flat link we'll put on there at the end. We're gonna get this fairlead bolted up with the plate that comes with the Warren winch plate that actually mounts to the fairlead and then also holds on our license plate, which I guess we should have up front. Let's keep going. All right, so here's one thing I just ran into. Obviously, with trying to put this thing on, well, and this isn't all the way on yet, but I can't put it up through here and then slide the bottom of this thing through here. So I did go back to the directions, and actually I didn't even see it till I got it out. So I've been just doing this by looks, but You can see I drew a line here. This tab's got to get sliced off, and then my D-ring shackle will be able to slide down in there after the hook goes in. So that'll take care of that, but we're going to cut that tab off on both sides there. And then most of this should go together pretty smoothly after that. Fingers crossed. Seems like it should. So I just had to do a double check, and I'm not positive of this yet. I've already bolted the fairlead and the filler plate from Warren to the bumper. As I was looking, I saw these bolt holes too. Per Warren's instructions, it says to bolt that fairlead and the filler plate to the bumper. So I'm not gonna put it on that right now. I guess we'll find out once I get it up there. Because it's a cap screw at the end for the fairlead, this is pretty thick, and I don't think that putting those bolts all the way through would allow enough thread left to put them on here. So I think I have it right, but we'll see when I put it up. What I wanted to mention was this. I have an older winch, as I've mentioned, and it didn't come with a big zip tie like this. I did have some the last time I did this, but for whatever reason, I just had a really hard time with that. What seemed to work was some welding wire. I'm gonna run this through the end of the winch line, and then what I did last time, and what I'm probably gonna do this time, is I took a pair of pliers and I grabbed it, and you keep twisting and twist and pull and twist, and this worked really well to bring that all the way through. Now, we're gonna get it pretty set in there as best we can. This really needs to be bolted up better, so we'll at least get it into a place where we're good with it, and then we'll set the rope tension once the entire bumper and everything else is all back together. So getting close, but let's get this thing in. Something happening here, but it ain't exactly clear. Got the bumper on. All right, so I'm gonna show you this, and I know some of these things are kind of evolving designs, so we just look inside here. This is how this plate sets up. The D-ring has some washers that space it out, as I mentioned, from the offset hook. But as we tighten it all down, this is what we have going on in the back, and I noticed it because I've already tightened down the other side, but I don't know if these are new studs that HK is using, but I threw washers on the top of this one because as I tightened the bottom down, I felt that it was not as far as it could be and it needed to be pulled in more. So luckily I have those washers here anyways. But based on how much I was seeing stick out at the top, because I tightened the bottom one down first, had this one still sticking out, because I tightened down the other side too and saw the same thing going on. But you can see on this bottom, look at how much collar is still left there. That's a lot of studs still left there, a lot of bolt. You know, this is what they send you as a lock washer and a nut. And then obviously the 3 washers for the inside spacer there. And that's got to be what that's for, because they were on the bottom of the D-ring, and that's, I mean, that fits perfectly. So that's got to be what they're for. I believe if I looked at the instructions, that's probably what it says too. But it's just, yeah, that's got to be something that's tweaked, because I have all the spacers in there. I have everything that needs to be in there. But you definitely need additional washers if you want to snug that down. That would be a huge problem if I didn't have washers. So we're going to go back through and make sure that we've got enough on all of these. All right, so problem number 2 so far with this mounting situation is I don't know how I'm going to get a nut past the side of that winch to get on that top nut. The bottom one isn't as bad. I should be able to get it past there. But the issue in the bottom one still, with as tight as it is that the socket trying to fit over the nut to get alongside of the winch. And it's almost like this side is tighter. So I've got my washers on that bottom one, or I'm trying to get them on there. But look at how close that, I mean, there's no gap there. So I just don't know how I'm going to get that on there. And towing with this behind the RV doesn't seem like the best situation if I'm short even one. So we'll see. All right, so that is a wrap on the bumper. I did end up getting all of the nuts onto the studs there. There is one that just, it won't go any farther. I can't get it any farther past. It's on there, but it literally won't go any farther past the side of the winch. So I am going to follow up with Bash and HK Offroad and just see any other changes they might have made. I know when I talked to him, because I did send him the last couple of videos as kind of questions in reference to what was going on. He said, I believe, and this is what I'm going to follow up with him on, but I think some of the studs he had going out are 3 inches and some are 4 inches. I think I got 4-inch studs. I think if those were a little shorter and a little closer back to the end of the winch, I'd actually be able to get them past a little bit better. But because there's so much thread there, because there's so much length on that stud still, it's just not going past. So of the 8 of them, 7 are on and fully torqued down. One of them is just not quite sitting where it should be. But the bumper made it on, and I didn't end up flat towing it anyways, so I was jamming out. It's actually been about a month since I finished up the bumper, and we did a little trip with it. To be honest, after doing the trip again and kind of looking around and watching others on the road with their Jeeps behind their campers, you don't see that many that are being pulled that have 35 plus tires on them. I'm always a little hesitant to pull something with larger tires. Number one, you're putting a lot of miles on tires that aren't cheap. And number two, it's just more of an off-road rig too, in terms of, you know, something that you're toting around behind your motorhome. So in all reality, I'm probably sending back some of the flat toe stuff, and we're probably gonna stick with the trailer. One of the big issues we had before was that we blew a ton of tires on the trailer. I actually ended up having all of those warrantied out after buying brand new ones. So we had a better experience this time, no issues with that whatsoever. Put a lot of miles on them and no problem. So may just stick with the trailer route anyways. The upside to that too is that, you know, if you do ever break anything or anything ever becomes an issue, you always put it right back on the trailer, and you don't have to tote it around behind the motorhome. So, but the D-ring shackles are a great spot to pull from. They make a good mounting point, and in all reality, I just like the way they look better than the plastic covers that were on it anyways. So bumper worked phenomenally. We actually made it down for the last 2 days of Trail Hero. We spent some time in Sand Hollow and down around Hurricane, Utah. Love that area. Love the people, love the folks we met while we were there. Then we spent some time, actually met up with my parents and did a little bit of trekking around Arizona. Hit up a couple of the trails over there, including Broken Arrow, Soldier's Pass, and I believe it's Schnebley Hill. From there, we cruised down to Lake Havasu, got to check out the Ultra 4 finals, and then we spent a little bit of time checking out SEMA before we cruised back home. So great month, a lot of traveling, great people, good times, had a ton of fun. Those are all videos that are coming up soon. So if you like this video, if you're into content like this, I would appreciate if you take a second to hit that thumbs up button. Of course, don't forget to subscribe because you don't want to miss the things we're coming up with. And as always, I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.